Do you feel like you could possibly have complex PTSD? What situation led you to have specific symptoms of complex PTSD? For those of us who are well aware of it, the symptoms usually are flashbacks, hypervigilance. We also have increased fight or flight mode, meaning that it's really easy for something in the environment to trigger your fight or flight system. You may also have a panic attack. You may struggle with nightmares and night terrors. And in some really severe situations, you may develop a sleep disorder like sleepwalking or sleep apnea. Complex PTSD is a complicated diagnosis, and unfortunately, it's really not a diagnosable disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, the so-called Bible. Complex PTSD is clinically significant. It is important for us to understand what it is, what causes it, and what keeps you stuck in a certain mindset, a certain place of emotions, and why you are so most likely afraid of moving from point A to point B. Some people are so stuck in fear and fight or flight response that they can't get out of it so that they can have a better life. What makes this even more complicated is having a mother who is a narcissist. You have a mother who is self-centered and manipulative and triangulating and uncaring, and it always feels like an exchange with your parent is a job. But let me introduce myself in case you are new to the channel before we jump in. My name is Thera. I'm internationally and I'm board certified as a trauma therapist. I'm licensed in mental health. I specialize in treating children, teens, and families as well as adults who are dealing with trauma right in my private practice. Let's jump in. Anytime I've had to discuss complex PTSD as a clinical concern to one of my clients, it's almost like getting a diagnosis of cancer for some of my clients. I think one of the reasons why is that complex PTSD is seen as a severe form of PTSD, that the complex picture that your trauma or traumatization has caused you is more severe than someone who just has PTSD. Now, that may or may not be true. There isn't any research that suggests that. But I think for most lay people or for most people who do not study psychology, complex PTSD feels like a cancer diagnosis because of the complexity that's involved in that particular trauma. Complex PTSD can occur for a variety of reasons. And for those of you who follow me on my channel, you're well aware of all the different ways that trauma can happen. One such way is growing up under a mother who is psychologically and emotionally unstable. A mother who is engaging in narcissistic abuse may do things such as intentionally abandon you, whether that's literally or emotionally. Because again, narcissistic mothers are all about themselves. They are all about their own well-being and what they think and what they feel. They could care less about you as their child or their adult child. So they may, really interact with you in a way that feels like they are emotionally and psychologically abandoning you. And in some severe situations or in some really complex situations, the mother does walk away completely. And so there is literal abandonment. They may also engage in manipulation and triangulation, meaning that they know how to manipulate things on this side of the world, to kind of favor them and to go against you. And then on this side of your world, they may be over here triangulating, creating a triangle between you and your siblings, right? Maybe that triangle has something to do with why your siblings don't call you anymore. Maybe that triangle has something to do with the reason why your niece doesn't seem to love you as much anymore, right? Maybe that manipulation your mother was causing over here is why the family has completely walked away from you and you can't figure out why. You may also see stonewalling, right? Or refusing to engage completely with you. Right? There's no conversation. There's no reaction to anything you're trying to say or do. There is no, implications or any insinuation that there's going to continue to be a relationship. It's like that mother has completely shut you out. They've put up a brick wall and they're not letting you in. You may also see pathological lying and isolation occur with a mother who is narcissistic and displaying narcissistic abuse. Pathological lying is basically compulsive lying. It's I'm lying constantly. I don't have a reason. I don't really know why I do it, but anytime I say something, a lie comes out. Maybe in some ways lying is stimulating to this kind of a parent, but the reality is this, that whatever the issue with the pathological lying, it has caused you trauma. And unfortunately, if you experience all of these things, right? Physical or literal and emotional and psychological abandonment, pathological lying, stonewalling and refusing to talk to you, and manipulation and triangulation. If you experience all of those things, you're likely going to experience complex PTSD. Complex PTSD really is identified when you look at three specific things. The first thing is that the trauma is repeated. It's something that happens over and over and over. And no matter what you do, or no matter what you say, or, no matter where you go, because sometimes children leave mom and leave dad, right? You may go over somebody's house and spend the night, or you may go stay with Aunt Susu for a summer, or as an adult child, you may walk away and never again want to talk to your mother, right? So, wherever you've gone, you may find that over the course of your development, you have been traumatized because it's been repeated. I lost my train of thought. Like always, there are three things that you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about complex PTSD. The first is that the trauma tends to be repeated. Repeated trauma tends to be that kind of trauma that is complex because it continues over and over again. There doesn't seem to be an ending in sight. Now, there may be an ending if, you grow up, you hit 18, you get a job and you move on. There may be somewhat of an ending to the abuse, but if you stay in close contact with this particular mother, you're likely to still be verbally harassed. You're likely to be spoken down to or condescended or manipulated in some other way, right? But usually the trauma can end at 18, 19, 20 or adult age. The second thing is that it's long term. It's not something that just happened once and it's gone. It's something that happens over and over and over for a long duration of time. So let's say it started at infancy. Well, this particular narcissistic abuse from a parent may continue on and on and on up until you hit about 18 and move out. So it's repeated and it's long term. And thirdly, there's absolutely no escape. You may feel very isolated and trapped with a parent like this. It's hard to believe that a parent would abuse their own child, but an unstable, narcissistic, self-centered parent will do it. And the abuse will be repeated. It will be long term, and there will be no escape. There's nobody that you can turn to, right, as a child and say, help me. So what do? You kind of succumb, to the abuse and to, what you're being taught and what you're being asked to be for that narcissistic parent, because they often have very high expectations of their children. Whatever the case, right? The abuse is repeated, it's long term, and there feels like there's no escape. So what's going on here, right? It's like, what is this that I am in? I've had a parent that's a narcissist, and my mother can't be the kind of mother that I want her to be. My mother can't be the kind of mother that I need right now. So what's really going on? Let me highlight some things. Now, if you have a narcissistic mother and you feel that you have complex PTSD, here's what kind of happens to you that causes that. Now, the number one thing is that you may be feeling controlled and kind of suffocated. Parents or mothers who engage in narcissistic abuse, they tend to suffocate you and isolate you from other people that could either teach you about the kind of abuse that you're enduring or the behaviors that you're seeing, or number two, take you away from them. Then you should probably look back over the course of your development and ask yourself, was I feeling kind of isolated, and was I feeling kind of suffocated and kind of kept away from other people in my life? That is usually what a narcissistic parent will do. They will isolate other people out of your world so that they can continue to have that power over you. There is also a creation of a perception to others of you. Let me clarify that. There's often a created perception that gets sold to outsiders. So here's what I mean by that. You know, you have a mother who's a narcissist. She doesn't want to look like she's to blame, right? So what does she do? She tells other people that you're oppositional defiant. She tells other people that you're bipolar. She tells other people that you're depressed and you're angry and that your mood goes all kind of ways and it's hard to figure out which way you are. And so you're difficult to deal with. You're difficult to communicate with. You're very irate and angry. You have anger management issues, right? They're going to take that attention off of the real issue and they're going to sell a perception to other people about you. You may also notice that this kind of parent kind of snaps out, right? They go into these fits and these rages. And it's almost like they lose consciousness of who you are to them. They become angry. They become irate. They become almost like they're having some kind of primitive response to another animal in the animal kingdom. You know, and I've seen this a lot in family sessions where a mother will say something to a daughter and the daughter will go ahead and shoot back and say something to the narcissistic mother. And that mother's whole eye contact, nose position, breathing rate, heart rate, sometimes even skin color because they're turning red or pale changes right before me. And it's shocking to see that this is a parent that's reacting this way. But it's because they have this, you know, sometimes narcissistic mothers, they have this almost primitive response to being called out. They don't like it. And that is almost like a way to kind of gain dominance and position. And it is not okay. You also want to consider that these kind of parents or this kind of a mother who has caused complex PTSD in your life, you know, they may house within them a certain level of competition with you or jealousy. Now, narcissistic mothers who are malignant and they're controlling and they're dominating, you may find that they truly don't like the fact that you either have a better life than them, you're more attractive, you're more intelligent, you're more centered and focused in life, you have a great family, you have a great husband, whatever the case may be, you're getting paid more money than them. They don't like that. Now, this is not all narcissistic mothers, but a malignant narcissist you may see and an overt narcissist you may see this in as well. They also may reenact a traumatic experience that they have had in their past. Now, I recently did a video on, you know, narcissistic parents utilizing that trauma label to make them feel like they are traumatized. Here's the thumbnail right here, and I'm going to post the video right here. When this video is over, go ahead and click on this. That way you can see that video. But, you know, a lot of parents who are narcissists, primarily mothers who are narcissistic, they will say, well, I was traumatized as a child, and they will wear that badge of trauma as if it justifies their behavior, and we have to be careful with that, right? So I'm just going to say this, that there are some mothers who are narcissistic who have a history of being traumatized and abused and neglected, and these kind of mothers may actually reenact that trauma in their relationship with you. So let's say, for example, your malignant narcissist of a mother used to get hit with belts every night because she would get something wrong in school, or she would come home with an A minus and not an A, right? So she would get beatings, or her parents would use corporal punishment. Well, what happens? Well, you know, she's learned to kind of take that, and she's internalized some rage and some resentment and some anger. And so when something happens in her relationship with you, what do you think she's going to reenact? Probably that situation, but she may not reenact it physically, right? She may not grab something and spank you with it or hit you with it, but she may reenact the attitude that her mother had, the eye contact that her mother had with her when she was younger. She may also reenact the chaos of the situation and pull it into the situation between you and your mother. You also want to look at this mother as, you know, isolating and dominating you. Complex PTSD is complex for a reason. There's been a series of behaviors and acts that has been detrimental to you, right? It's destructive. So we might as well call it what it is. It's likely that this kind of a mother has isolated you and has dominated you. You may find that there's some fear that you hold within yourself and you can't get away from it because you're so afraid of it. You may also find that you have a fear of failure or a fear of disappointing other people in your world because of this kind of a mother, right? A malignant narcissist always has an expectation that's way up here. And so if you're being abused by a mother who is like this, right, and you can never reach the expectation that they set for you, and then you try to reach it and they set the bar a little higher, right, then complex PTSD is likely to occur. You want to look at this as, how many of these symptoms have I had? How many of these experiences have I had? Do I have all of them? And if so, maybe I have complex PTSD. Remember, the abuse is repeated, it's long-term, and there's no escape. So you feel trapped. There's almost like a form of learned helplessness that's built into the complex PTSD dynamic. These kind of mothers may also try to rewire your brain and your heart. The way that they do this is not by telling you that you're not perfect or, you're never going to arrive anywhere. The way that they kind of rewire your mind and your heart, your emotions, and how you think and feel about things is by little pushing you into a category that they are comfortable with. They may push you by having financial dominance over you. They may push you into a category they want you to be in by belittling you or being condescending. They may push you into a character that you're not, but you're slowly turning into this person because you just want peace between you and your mother. They may try to push you, right, by threatening the loss of things. I'm not going to pay your car anymore. I'm not going to pay your mortgage anymore. You can totally forget about that cruise that I said I was going to help you pay for, right? Remember, narcissistic mothers who are malignant narcissists or overt narcissists are primarily detrimental to their children because they manipulate and they triangulate and they use things against you. Check out this video right here so you can learn about psychopathic fathers. You're probably also going to see this pattern of behavior, and you're likely to also experience complex PTSD with psychopathic fathers. And here's my old video on psychopathic mothers so that you can go back and check that out as well, because you're going to see that a lot of the behaviors from psychopathic mothers are similar to narcissistic mothers as well. Thank you so much for being with me in today's video, guys. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell button if you want to stick around and get more videos like this. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.